So, video number 2, same night. I wanted to talk a little bit about sparkling glassware, sparkling, what I've been looking for lately in my sparkling wine tastes. So, I opened this up not that long ago, Le Petit Roche from Saumur, another part in the central part of Loire. And this doesn't have a vintage on it, does it? No. But this is a sparkling wine made out of the Loire Valley. Is it made by the Champagne Method? Yes, made by the Champagne Method, which means they're getting the second fermentation in the bottle, not in a vat, and then moving it to a bottle. And this is 80% Chenin Blanc, 20% Chardonnay. And I guess what I've been really looking for recently is now they do add sugar to sparkling wines to kick off that second fermentation. Again, sparkling wines are typically grapes that aren't super ripe and underripe, and they're already pretty, let's call it bitter, so they're not getting to become sweet. Now if they add a lot of dosage, which is that dose to make the second fermentation kick off, that will, is it yeast and sugar? I forget exactly. Anyway, it doesn't really matter much except that they're not making them sweet, just kicking something off. But sometimes I can tell that there's like a little extra, it just tastes like a little bit something. Like I think it's sweet, it's not really sweet, but it's just not as crisp and acidic and razor sharp like I want my champagnes, my sparkling wines. I want them sort of razor sharp and acidic. And I feel like this was one of those, and Chenin Blanc actually has a different type of flavor profile that I really dig in a sparkler that I don't remember having before, but after I had this, and it was from Prince and Corkscrew for $20 or so. So I'm going to pour it into 2 different glasses, so you get a lot more of the aroma in here. So I was like, oh, this isn't a champagne flute, right? Pour it into a champagne flute, that's what you pour this in. But really, this was always done just for presentation. There's nothing that's going to make this sparkler taste better here. Actually, you get less aromatics, but just the visual is beautiful. You know, the bubbles streaming to the top, but you don't have a lot of surface area here to get a good aroma. You actually get a lot of just bubbles and effervescence right into your nostrils. So here, a lot less sexy of a presentation, but you'll get a lot more of the aromas. They sort of concentrate here, and then they come up to the nose. Easier to put your nose in here versus here, but not nearly as beautiful, right? You do a comparison, I mean, there is no comparison. This just looks classier, more elegant. There's something called a coupe. Now this is obviously not a coupe, but it actually has a longer, it's like this is the other shape of a classic sparkling wine vessel, minus the flute. You don't see it very often, but it's called a coupe. So anyway, this has this aroma of being a little bit more razor sharp, and definitely not all Chardonnay. I could kind of sense there's a little Chenin Blanc in here. I'm not always that great. So in Champagne region of France, there's 3 primary grapes: Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier. 2 red, 1 white. Obviously making always, well, mostly white, but then they do make a rosé style where they'll let a little bit of the, and that's becoming more of a rage. Those are actually becoming more expensive than the non-rosé champagnes. So they'll bleed a little bit of that, the macerated grape juice, grape skins. So what this lacks from like a champagne is there's not a lot of aging. This is created, bottled, and then put out to market pretty quickly. It's not aging on its lees, on its yeast, where it's then adding another dimension of breadiness, yeastiness, creaminess. It doesn't have all that, but you still get the beauty of something made in the same exact way, just not all the elegance of the grapes and elegance of the way they're doing it, and all the aging and the quality of grapes as well. So still, it's like, call this bargain champagne. Just can't call it champagne. You call it a sparkling wine. This isn't even a Vermont. They're just calling this Saumur, just from Saumur. You know, and Princeton Corkscrew does things like this all the time. Loire Valley sparkling wine. Fine by me. I wanted to give it a shot. I've been giving a lot of these a shot. I tried one from the Jura, eastern side of France, and that was kind of had that crisp acidity that I was looking for too. But it's kind of what I'm trying to get to. Yeah, it's got that. It's very focused. It's very acidic. It doesn't feel even the slightest bit sweet. I know I'm saying the word sweet, and when I say sweet, it's like the slightest hint. So. Now, does this taste any better or different out of a different glass? Tastes exactly the same. To me, a wine will taste exactly the same no matter what vessel you put it in. Maybe not a plastic cup, maybe because there's just some aromas that come out of that plastic cup. But I do believe you get better aromas out of a proper wine glass for the proper wine. You know, bigger bulb for the Pinots and Cab or red wines, I feel. Even whites. I mean, there's so many aromatics in a white. I drink everything out of something just like this. My whites, my reds. I even put my sparklers in here. I do sometimes put sparklers in here too. Not that often, but sometimes. So I know there's sort of a back and forth. Does a wine taste better or worse? Better or worse? I haven't been able to detect a difference. You could probably blind me on it. I don't know if I'd ever know. But it's a good sparkler for 20 bucks. Just Princeton Corkscrew I've ever seen this, so you want it, gotta go there. Unless you can find it for somewhere else, but good little sparkler. And certainly the presentations. So champagnes also have varying degrees of price point and levels of, I forget what all the words are, but anyway, you have this, you know, entry level $30 to $50 champagne. Then you have, you know, they have Grand Cru too. They have those higher end vineyards. But when they call something a vintage champagne, it's from a specific year. Those have different aging requirements, so they just age a lot longer on the lees, on the yeast cells, dead yeast cells, and it sounds gross, but that adds so much complexity. There's like a bready and yeasty component to having a real vintage champagne, even with a few years of age. I mean, they come out 5-6 years after release. I think the 2012s are coming out now, so it tells you everything you need to know. If some 20 houses are putting out their 2012, the vintage 2012 right now in 2021, it just shows you there's just so much going on. And I try to buy a bunch of them. I had a champagne recently, Niagara Parliament Mineral. It was unbelievably good. $130. And I did an unboxing. It was from a place I only went, a Montivino, and it was awesome. And it was a vintage champagne. I forget exactly the vintage, but truly awesome. And you could just tell it was just in a class of its own compared to these $20 sparklers. There's a sparkling wine house out of California called Schramsberg, which always gets really good just reviews and ratings. I'd like to try that one again, and I think they do vintage champagne for like 30 or 40 bucks. I think it could be that that's just their normal one that compares to the $50, $60 ones like Veuve Clicquot and Bollinger, the other big houses, Perrier-Jouët, that have their normal $50 bottle. For $50, I like the Pierre Peters, which I showed in my mega unboxing, and I think that wine's got that crisp, razor-sharp acidity, and it's a Grand Cru, which is just amazing. Blanc de Blanc, all Chardonnay, that champagne is awesome. Awesome. So I could drink it every time at a sparkling, but I go broke, $50-something. So look for things like this that are very good. More bargain, more weekday, though it is Sunday. So, enough about sparkling. Go ahead, a little bit of cheese. Finish that last glass of Smith Madroni. A little bit of sparkling to finish tonight, and call it a night. Tomorrow is going to be pork chop, a milk-fed pork chop. Not sure what I'm gonna pair it with. Maybe go Spanish red. Maybe go a little burgundy. We shall see.